Good morning from ClearedJobs.Net and CybersecJobs.com. My name is Kathleen Smith, and I am the Chief Outreach Officer for ClearedJobs.Net and CybersecJobs.com, two job boards. I'm joined today with two of my dearest friends in the recruiting world, Kirsten Renner of Novetta and Matt Duren from Tenable. We're also joined in the chat room with Courtney Schwarten, who works here at ClearedJobs.Net and CybersecJobs.com. We are all dealing with unprecedented times, and we felt that it was very important to job seekers to truly understand what is going on for recruiting and job search in general. These unprecedented times really mean that we all have to learn new things rather quickly. And one of the new things that I had to learn was not how to participate in a webinar, but how to produce one and make sure that everyone showed up on the screen at the same time. So if there are any technical glitches, it's because I haven't learned how to use this format completely. I put this together in 4 days, so there's a lot that we can work on. Also, Courtney will be sharing with you articles that will be important to complement any of the information that our panelists will be sharing. And she will also be launching polls, which will help us keep engaged and get more information about what is going on in the job-seeking community. So, Courtney, can you launch our first poll for our attendees, please? And our first question that I'd like Kirsten to answer is, what are the 3 changes that you are seeing now?
The first change was a little bit of a surprise to me. Is there's actually my team is seeing an influx in the active pool of candidates. We're kind of seeing a big increase in the number of people that we're engaging with or that are engaging with us. We see specifically in the cleared community, we have a new variety of folks that they're kind of bored at home. These people are mission focused and they're used to spending their time on the mission, and maybe they can't get on site to their specific sites depending on the circumstances. And I realize things change daily, but so they're at home just bored doing training and things like that. And there's one other item where folks that were previously either engaged or sold or signed are getting reluctant toward the end, or getting reluctant when it's time to make the jump or to get started, and they're just not asking the questions they need to ask to address those concerns that they have.
Matt, what are you seeing?
Yeah, I take a little different approach. Certainly, I'm more on the commercial and enterprise side. From just a process standpoint, I'll just note that a lot of things have slowed down or even come to a halt altogether. From a recruiting, you may have been involved in some interviews, and you may have seen there's a little bit of lag in communication, and a lot of that. And I'll try to shed some light on that too. It's it's into the quarter. People want to try to get some of their sales numbers in or their budget numbers in, and they're trying to evaluate what they can and can't do with the hires and the headcount that they had. So I've seen a lot of things slow down a little bit. You've seen stories out there, people having to stop hiring altogether or push things off by several weeks. Recruiting budgets, just to give you guys a little bit behind the scenes, recruiting budgets are getting scrutinized. Things that we're doing that we can, events or plans or other things like that, they're getting heavily scrutinized, and recruiting teams have got to go back and find out, okay, do we have the resources now to do everything we want to do? And then the other thing is there are some industries that we're losing workforce, like grocery stores and things like that are now on the demand. Their healthcare workers have always been in demand. It's even worse now in that industry to find good people. So you're seeing a little bit of shift in some of the positions that weren't available 6 weeks ago, and now there's a big rush to get people into those jobs.
Great. So when we look at the poll results, it primarily says that people are hearing from prospective employers that there's been a delay in the communication. So we would expect that. So going on to the next question, Matt, why don't you kick off this, which is, if someone is currently in the interview or offer stage, what are two things that they should be doing?
Yeah, the first thing I'd like to say is I know it's tough, but be patient. You guys are obviously seeing that delay in things. I'm not saying sit back and wait, but if you and not do anything, but reach out, but understand that you might get a slight delay in some response because some companies are still trying to figure this out. But I would dig into the company industry a little bit more. The companies that you're talking to, are they in an industry that's being potentially hurt? Try to understand, put yourself in their shoes a little bit to find out, okay, they're getting crushed right now, or their business model is such that they're being hurt by what's happening today, or is it in a high demand industry? And that may change the way that you're doing your job search. I know a lot of folks on this call are probably in security or technology. Thankfully, those types of industries are doing well, or those types of positions are doing well right now. So there will be probably a demand for security people. But just check and make sure the companies that you're interviewing with aren't going to be severely hurt, which will definitely hurt your chances. I'd also ask you to talk to the recruiter, and when you do get a response, but make sure you ask them how you should prepare for the next steps. Perfectly fine to do that. You should be doing that. This kind of kicks off the remote interviewing topic a little bit, and a lot of people are doing more Zoom or Skype or Microsoft Teams. Ask them what you should expect with that. Is everything going to be done virtually now? There are some positions that still require an on-site. Are you ready to do that? And what's their plan to help make sure you're prepared and safe to come onto their site or do what they need to do? And then you can always ask how that position has been prioritized. Companies are going back and they're prioritizing all their positions now. The critical high demand things will likely keep going. And hopefully they'll be honest with you and say that this one is being pushed off a little bit, or yeah, this is still a high priority position for us. You have the right to go in and ask those questions and make sure that you are understanding of where this position and your candidacy falls today.
Kirsten, how about in the cleared community? What are some of the other things that they should be thinking about?
Matt made an excellent point about being patient. As you can imagine, in the cleared space, where we're having to respond to what our customers are able to do. It's been an interesting revelation, if you will, watching some of those government customers be able to accommodate in ways that they never have been before in terms of virtual and remote and things like that. The flexibility is there if you ask. So when you're speaking to your recruiter, the way Matt suggested that you do, talk to them about what accommodations can be made for you. Specific to the virtual interviews, which we're seeing more and more of, everyone knows about check your tech. That's important. We did it before this meeting. Everybody does it. You should. One thing that I learned the hard way is, in addition to making sure that the speakers work and the camera works, put your phone on do not disturb, especially if your phone is part of the technology that you're using. There's nothing like being in a video meeting and having a call interrupt the meeting. So check your tech. And I've seen some employers put out there that within reason, do your best to ensure that there won't be a lot of distractions. If the delivery truck shows up here in a second, my dog will start barking. It happens. I think that it's going to be an interesting reveal to you as a candidate when you are having to deal with those distractions. The employers are going to be more reasonable, I think, or at least they're going to reveal to you what type of employer they are if they're being understanding, because we're all in the same boat right now.
We just launched another poll, and what's interesting is in the poll, we're talking about what are some of the difficulties that everyone is experiencing in the in their lives. What's interesting is that a lot of people are saying what is the positive and what is the negative. So take some time to answer that poll. Some of you are seeing the poll, some of you are not seeing. So Sorry about that. Again, it's one of those we're dealing with the technical glitches. There's also the situation that many of us are dealing with is that so many people are online right now, and we're seeing a lot of slowdowns on computers. We're seeing a lot of slowdowns as far as internet connectivity. You know, every now and then I do a video chat and I get something about how the internet connection is stable or unstable. So, Kirsten, let's go back to what are the 3 tips that you would give to job seekers right now to support their job search? And we have some time to really delve into this. You talked about video. Let's talk a little bit more about video conferencing etiquette. I've heard some funny stories that people have been experiencing. There's also, you know, social media. You know, what are some of the things that people should be doing?
As far as the etiquette goes, you know, I think that we need to always balance. Think about what your end game is. Think about what you're trying to project about yourself. And we've talked about you know, being who you are, being yourself. You know, behaving as though in the video that you are there in person. This is you giving your best self. So you're going to show up. You don't have to be wearing a suit, but it's appropriate to present yourself the way that you would had you showed up in person, I believe. And you know, as far as the etiquette goes within the video space, just this is the best we can do right now. It's as if you were there in person. And, you know, cleared or not, either way, don't forget that the footprint that you make out there is telling people who you are. And recruiters, we're not stalkers per se, but we're looking at your social, probably now more than we ever did. This is how we're getting to know you. This is how we're networking. This is how we're searching. We're looking on social media.
How about you, Matt? What are some of the things that people really should delve into?
So yeah, a couple of tips. I mentioned this before. Is you know, if it's a new position, let's assume you're doing the search, you're looking for new things. You know, doing your research and finding out where some of the greatest demands are, and familiarize yourself with those industries and see what they're looking for. If they match what you're doing, that's more for the non-cleared folks. For cleared, there are still some positions that are out there, and people won bids. I know that, and they're moving forward. So maybe it's trying to find out where some of those customers or those companies won their bids and are now staffing for some of those. But again, on the tech side, I would say familiarize yourself with the different video platforms. There's a lot. Some people use Microsoft Teams. Some are using things like HireView, which is an interviewing platform. You may see some more of those types of record and playback type videos or interviews where it's a set of questions that you would then go in and you'll be asked to answer those, and you have like 30 seconds or a minute or something like that to answer your question, and then you submit that. So you're not even doing a face-to-face or a video-to-video conference. It's a recorded interview, and then somebody on the back end will go back and review that. But I would also say be mindful of your surroundings in your house. I'm in my dining room right now, right? I have a couple of kids upstairs with my wife, and at any moment they might pop into the screen here. They're not going to, but they have in the past. But be mindful of your surroundings and let your families know. Everybody's at home now, right? You got kids, you have to teach them. Just let them know that you're on a video interview and how important it is, and try to get them to understand that they need to minimize their interruptions. Some family member's going to come running through, or the dog or the cat. They're gonna make an appearance at some point. I hope that recruiters are giving the hiring managers the information and the feedback and the advice to say, that's okay. It's going to happen. It's probably going to happen to you too, as a hiring manager and as an interviewer. Let's be a little more lenient on some of that stuff than maybe we would be otherwise. It's not the same environment as it was 6 weeks ago again. And at that point in time, I would expect somebody to to find a private location where there are no distractions. house full of 4 or 5 people, roommates or family members, whatever, it's not really realistic anymore. So I'm hoping they're gonna do that and be a little more lenient on some of those distractions that come through. There are some things that you can do to minimize that, though. There are some platforms that allow you to either blur your background. I think Teams does that. You can put a different background on Zoom. You can do some things like that to make sure that your background is not a distraction. And we talked before about delivery people and they saw right when I got started here, they saw our yard. We have an open community here, and there's yard maintenance that gets done on the open areas, and they always have the loudest lawnmowers. So I was really afraid they were going to start mowing the yard during this. So I'm glad they didn't. But just be mindful of what interruptions you could have. State them. Say, hey, I may have this. This might happen, and just to be upfront and honest about it. And then I guess one thing I would like to add, there's a concept of the mental health of people that are at home, maybe by themselves during this time. So maybe it's your coworkers, maybe it's your manager and your team is like that. I just be mindful of some people's mental health during this, and maybe go check in on those people. Just your friends, your families, people like that, and just to see if they're okay. I think some people are having a hard time with some of this stuff. So I think getting that message out and just checking in with some of your folks that may be by themselves during this time.
Great points. I think that everyone's checking in with their friends and family right now. Everyone's dealing with this just a little bit differently. One thing that we just launched in the chat was something that was put together by a coworker of Kirsten's, Lisi's work guide from home. So it's a really great sort of graphic on how to, make sure things are going okay at home. So one of the things that people are trying to figure out is, well, let's see, I'm going to share some of the results that we have from our poll that we did earlier. So some people were concerned that they don't have a home office and how to deal with that. A lot of people are missing the social interaction with their colleagues. So those are some of the things that are the difficulties of working from home. Some of the benefits that a lot of people are enjoying are the no commute, more time to work on creative pursuits, more time in casual clothes, and more time spending with your pet. So I'm going to share these results with everyone. And I find it interesting that a lot of people are not concerned with the fact that there are some basic practices that happen within an overall job search. So just because the environment has changed, some of the key tools, some of the key practices that you do in a job search really need to stay front and center. So Kirsten, do you want to go over 2 or 3 of those key things that you think people really need to focus on more now?
So a couple of things to focus on, and I thought Matt was going to say this when he started talking about contract awards within the cleared space. There's a tool you've probably heard of called GovWin. It's free. Anybody can access it. You can see what all of the integrators and service providers to the government are doing. You can literally go in and see what they're bidding on. You can, depending on how far back you want to go, you can see what they've been doing and how much they've been doing, what areas they've been. When we talk about researching companies, here's a way to do it. And I got to give a shout out, speaking of Lisi, who did the guide. She's the one who reminded me of this. She did that when she was looking at Novetta as a company. She's like, well, what's Novetta up to? Oh, it looks like they're doing this and this and this. So take the time to do that. That's also going to tell you as a candidate, even maybe before the positions are posted, it's letting you know what type of work those companies are, those integrators and service providers to the government are working on. Another thing that you can do, and LinkedIn might be one of the best tools for this, you may also be able to do this with really good Google searches, super Google searches, if you will, and also Indeed, also Glassdoor, all of these tools that are available to you for free. Throw the keyword remote in there. Throw the keyword virtual in there. Employers that are adapting to our new environment, our new state of affairs, are finding a way to provide remote opportunities, flexible work schedules, the things that you now need. So yes, we all got, everybody who goes on the toll road, everyone local to the DMV is saving $350 a month, not having to pay tolls. That's great. But you also want to know what work locations do I need to go to? Are they offering shared space? If it's a skiff, is it a skiff sometimes now? And these types of things will be revealed if they're updating their job postings and so forth. So when you're searching out there, oh, here we go, on time.
I'm pretty far.
I'm gonna let you mute me, and Matt's gonna take over because there's a delivery guy here. The dog's gonna lose his mind.
Okay, Matt, why don't you take over?
I knew we'd get this eventually. I was wondering if it was going to be her dog or my cat. Anyway, it still might be my cat. Yeah, so I'll let her finish her thought when she gets back. One of the areas I think is interesting to look into are some of the alternative things that companies are doing now for some maybe that aren't recruiting right now. They may be signing up for job alerts. So find ways to sign up for some of the job alerts that are out there. Companies have those usually on their website. You can sign in or add your name to that to be contacted on certain things. One of the things that I'm trying to do right now is I'm trying to pull a lot of our tech challenges that we use for interviewing and put them on the web somewhere. So keeping skills going. And that's a way for me to kind of still passively recruit, just so you guys know. Those could be things that you find a tech challenge out there, you do it, and you know that you're keeping your skills sharp, but you're also engaging with companies that you have an interest in. There are a lot of free resources out there for training and education. My company has the Tenable for Education program, and it allows you to download a free version of Nessus Essentials, has some tutorials and things like that in there. But maybe other companies are kind of doing the same thing, and you can sign up for that kind of stuff. And you made that soft communication or soft intro to having some interest in working there. You know, again, several online courses. I know. I think Cybrary is still doing a bunch of stuff. Some things might be free. Some other things might charge a fee. And I think, again, to Kirsten's point on LinkedIn, we need to start engaging more. It's your only way to do it. And you know, aside from setting up a virtual happy hour or a virtual networking session, which I have seen people do, and they just get together and start chatting as much as they can. But your search is going to change a little bit. You're going to have to put yourself out there a little bit more if you're just starting or you haven't started interviewing yet and you want to do something or you need to do something. I think the way that social media is allowing people to do some of that stuff, just make sure you keep it clean. Don't get down a rabbit hole with some political commentary, things like that, because back to Kirsten's point, that stuff will probably follow you. But just be creative about how you're engaging. Create a poll on LinkedIn or whatever social site you want to do. Engage more on some Twitter conversations, some chats, things like that. You'll get to network with those folks a little bit, and then you can share opportunities that you know about that they may be interested in, or they'll share opportunities with you that might help you out.
So the other thing we were talking about earlier is the importance of the resume now, because it's your definite way of being able to get in front of a recruiter. So we've launched 2 articles in the chat about how to really improve your resume. We've also launched 2 articles about social networking in the world of social distancing. So we're about ready to wrap up. One of the questions that came in through our Q&A was, there are so many recruiters and so many application systems out there. Any suggestions on the best way for us to manage all of the application systems and all of the recruiters? So really getting into, am I throwing just stuff against the wall, or how do I strategically really look at applying for a lot of jobs? Kirsten?
So you're you're going to keep a list, and you're going to rank that list, and you're going to keep track of when you applied. Um, I don't necessarily recommend applying to a multitude of positions within one company, depending on the size of the company. And then you're going to give it a day or two. And then you're going to use LinkedIn. And you're going to use LinkedIn by finding a recruiter that works in that company. Just go to people, look for the recruiter, or you could look for a hiring manager as well. This will work the same way. All their DMs are open. Well, the recruiter's direct messages are all open. Send them a message. Hi, Kathleen, it's me. I applied to XYZ on this day, and I look very forward to hearing back from you. Let me know if you have any questions, something to that effect. So you're opening up the communication in case they didn't see your resume. And that, another thing that you can do is look for commonalities when you are, whether it's the school that you went to. In the cleared space, it's very often going to be that common differentiator between you and the employer is very often going to be the branch in the military, perhaps, that you either worked with or worked for. Use that when you're networking. I know networking can be scary, but we are at a time where we have to message each other. We have to reach out to each other. So give that a try. Send a message. If you don't hear back from the recruiter, I will be surprised within a day or two. Send out another message and just remind them, hey, not trying to bug you. Haven't heard back. Looking forward. Is there anything you need from me? So that would be my suggestion, is to use the tools that are available for free to make sure your resume doesn't get overlooked.
Matt?
I mean, that's the ultimate advice right there. I mean, as recruiters, we don't just send the one message and leave it alone if we're trying to direct source somebody. So it's almost the exact same thing, but in the opposite way. Just reach out. There's a lot of ways to find who works in an organization, and maybe you can, there's a referral that can come in that way too. But yeah, you're gonna have to keep track of that, whether it's in a spreadsheet or whether it's somewhere else, and to know what you did. Most applicant tracking systems will send you an email response on that. Usually that email response, just a confirmation that you got it. That email response, if you just reply to that, will likely go right back to the recruiter. Some of them are set up differently and they go into just a general box, but a lot of times it does go back to the recruiter who's associated with the job. So if you get those confirmations, just send them back, just reply back. Hey, great, can't wait to hear from you. Looking forward to chatting, and maybe there's some things that you can add on there. If you're talking about being seen with your resume, if you're not adding a little bit of extra stuff on there, like if you're a software engineer and you do GitHub or something like that, you have a Stack Overflow page, any extra things that you think would kind of get some attention, put those on there. And if you didn't put them on there, you can always follow up with those questions, those emails with that particular content. So I think there's a lot of ways to use the communications that come out of those systems that do go back directly to you, and use those to message back the recruiter that's responsible for that job.
Wonderful. We have one more question and then we'll need to wrap it up, but this is a quick one. Is how do you best protect your personal information during the job search process? So Matt and then Kirsten.
By personal information, are we talking just like name, address, contact information, things like that? Or?
Yeah. I mean, I think that, one thing that I've seen a lot is that people put their address on their resume. What is the key information that should be on a resume?
I think you don't have to put full address. You really don't. You can put just, city and state. Because some places obviously require a commute or, proximity to the location. So you can, I would mainly just put the location down. There's just the city and state. For other things like email address, create a dummy account, a job seeking account, it's, last name jobs at Gmail or something like that. That way, everything that comes into that should be job related, and you put that onto your message. I see a lot of people leave off the phone numbers. I know that's hard to do. Usually it's just going to be email anyway to start with, and we can pick up that later. But if you're filling out an application, a lot of those can be required fields. But I don't see any reason these days putting the full address on there. Definitely don't need Social Security. I know there's some countries that put that stuff on there. They put all their everything, everything that you have, even children and religious affiliations. Obviously, you shouldn't do that. But yeah, I think leaving off some of the very specific details aren't going to hurt you.
Kirsten, anything to add to that?
Yes, two things. With regard to the address, just maybe the town or the area is all you need to do. And then put a statement in there that says willing to relocate or willing to commute, and tell us specifically what that is so that we don't make bad assumptions. So that I don't assume that you live in Western Loudoun County and you wouldn't possibly go to Springfield because the river is an ocean or something like that. So let me know, let the recruiter know what you're willing to do so they don't make bad assumptions about your address. Specific to protecting information, I just wanted to say for the cleared space, and you would think this is goes without saying, but don't tell me, don't put exactly what, please don't tell me exactly what poly you have. We'll figure it out. And don't tell me your customer name, and don't list the project names or the contract names. Just it's not okay. We'll figure out the information, but it's not helpful to you to put too much information that is not necessarily classified, but that your customer wouldn't be pleased with on your resume.
Well, we've run over by a few minutes. We do have a few more questions in the Q&A. We will respond to those in an email as part of the thank you message. I want to thank everyone, one, for putting up with all of my technical inabilities, and we were seeing my desktop, how messy I am. I will get better at this. This is my first one. I really want to thank Matt and Kirsten for coming together to provide this information, and we look forward to doing more of these. Keep a lookout on your social media. We'll probably be doing another one in 10 days, and I will do a lot of training between now and then. Take care. Have a great weekend, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us today.